Hey and welcome everyone, it's Egwin from Beyond Systems. Welcome to my channel. Now today we're doing another video in the series about core stability, or how I much rather like to call it core function. Now if you're new to the channel, this is a standalone video, however there is also a playlist wrapping around the topic of core stability, and there are a couple of more playlists wrapping around different topics of body mechanics, of how to consciously use your mind to actually properly activate your muscles, and so on and so on. Before I get started right now, because today we're talking about this functional junction between our pelvic ring, our abdominal region and our lumbar region. We're doing a very specific exercise regarding this. Before we get started, let me say thank you to all my patrons. It's really helpful and I appreciate a lot that you guys support me. Actually, a really big thank you to everyone who supports me and my channel, because it allows me to literally dedicate more time and put out more free content. Now if you want to check out my Patreon page where I put out exclusive content, check out the link below. And other than that, thanks a lot again, and let's get started right away. What are we talking about today? In one of the last core videos I was talking about this differentiation between the rectus abdominis, the obliques, and so really some of the core muscles. Like I mentioned already, the core is not something to be held stiff, and that is one of the biggest misconceptions right now. The idea of a lot of training methods is often to strengthen the muscles, but there is quite often rather little focus on how to actually stabilize in a functional way. The exercise that we're doing today looks similar to something that I've done in a video a couple of years back. Today I'm going to explain it from a different perspective and add some more. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to simply stand in a hip to shoulder width stance. The inside edges of our feet are parallel towards each other. If possible, stand on an even surface if you are non-experienced. However, if you have a little bit more experience in terms of connecting with your body consciously, feeling into your body, feeling nuances in your body, in tension and so on, then a rocky surface like that is fine as well. Get into this hip to shoulder width stance. Make sure that the left and right foot are pretty much at same height level, so that you really stand nice horizontal plane. What we are going to do is simply drop one hip, bring it back up, drop the other hip, bring it back up. Let me put this t-shirt in here so that you can actually see what I'm talking about. Now, if you look at the upper area of my pelvic ring here, like my iliac crests are around my belt region here, what I'm doing is I'm dropping one side of my pelvis, bringing it back up, and dropping the other side. Obviously, to do that, it requires my knee to actually move to the front, coming back up, and move to the front, and coming back up. So I need to make space between my hip and the ground somehow. In this specific case, for the first part of the exercise, it's really I allow my left knee to go to the front, which allows the left hip to drop, and then I have this tilt of the pelvis to the side. It's extremely important that we're talking about a pelvic tilt sideways right now. We're not talking about an anterior or posterior pelvic tilt. Now, which muscles are involved in that? Obviously a lot of muscles in the legs, but I want to stick to the muscles that we've discussed in the last videos, or more or less the core muscles for now. The thing here is this: when I drop one side of my pelvic ring, what I have to do in order to actually enable this movement is I have to consciously let go of muscles, say, on my right side of the body. When you look at me, my upper body is completely straight and upright, while my pelvis drops on one side. So I have this side tilt in my lumbar spine, which is a movement that it can perfectly do. So it really requires me to let go of tension in my external and internal obliques on this side. It also requires me to let go of tension in my quadratus lumborum area back there. It even, if done properly, requires me to let go of the lowest areas of my latissimus dorsi muscle here. So there are a lot of muscles involved. If done completely correctly, it even requires me to let go of a portion of the multifidus muscle on the side of the spine back there as well. However, I say if done completely properly, this is something that most people at the beginning will most likely not feel. I'm going to talk about this in a second, but bear with me for this exercise right now. Try to make space with the knee and allow the pelvic ring to drop on this side. And bring it back up. However you're doing this right now, it doesn't matter. And then do it on the other side. Just drop the pelvis by allowing the knee to go to the front. Come back up, drop the pelvis, come back up, drop the pelvis, come back up, drop the pelvis, come back up, pelvis. One can do this exercise in a great variety of different ways. What I want to do right now is really a clear focus on the release part, letting go of the tension in the muscles on the side, thus allowing the pelvis to drop. You'll know why that's important for this specific approach in a second. And then do it on the other side, rather than thinking crunch on one side and move the upper body. That's not what I want at the moment. What I want is to drop pelvic ring, drop the other side, to drop, so that actually the space between my lower rib bow and my pelvic ring, my iliac crest, actually increases on one side. Well, that's where my focus lies, to release muscles on this area on the side and let it go towards the ground. Now, the second part of this exercise, to jump right into it, is sort of the exact opposite. Now, what do I mean when I say the exact opposite? The exact opposite of dropping the pelvic ring is actually lifting it. So the resulting movement of my pelvic ring in regard to my lumbar spine is pretty similar. If this is my lumbar spine, this is my pelvic ring. With the dropping, obviously, the pelvis drops on one side, the pelvis drops on the other side. With the action that I'm doing right now, the pelvis is pulled up on one side, the pelvis is pulled up on the other side. So it's pretty similar. It's not completely the same. We'll discuss why it's not completely the same in a second. However, I want you to try this out right now with me. Stand there again, the shoulder width stance, inside edges of the feet parallel. Now it's really good if your heels are completely at the same height level. It's not 100% the case here with me, so you might see differences between the left and the right side, but it doesn't matter. So the thing is, I'm pulling up the right side, I'm pulling up the left side, pulling up the right side, and I'm pulling up the left side, pulling up the right, pulling up the left, pulling up the right, pulling up the left, pulling up, pulling up. Now when you do this pulling up, you'll probably realize that you really have to be careful not to twist pelvis too much. What do I mean by that? Look at me from the side angle. Now, when I'm doing the drop, we can make sure that my pelvis actually remains in a frontal plane while doing this movement. When I'm doing the pulling up, we should make sure that the pelvis remains in this frontal plane together with my shoulders as well, rather than either my upper body twisting or my pelvic ring twisting and rotating all over the place. What I really want is this complete nice sideways tilting motion that keeps my pelvis in a frontal plane. Here is what's happening in this whole situation and why those two exercises are actually so important. Whenever we focus on tensing up, it obviously closes. The focus is on closing a specific structure. When we are focusing on a release, it opens a specific structure. In this case, when I focus on letting the knee go, allowing almost gravity to pull on my pelvic ring, and allow my pelvis to drop because I let go of the muscles on the side here, then it really focuses on releasing pressure and tension on the right side of the spine, the right side of my abdomen. And just I use gravity to gently pull on my structures, thus using gravity to actually align my structures downward rather than forcing them downward by saying I'm gonna pull my right hip towards my left knee using my adductors on the left inside of the thigh, which I do not want to use right now. I just want to drop. Now, in the second part of this exercise with pulling up, that's a little bit of a different story, because when I say I pull up, then what happens immediately is that the focus is more on the closing part. However, one thing that you can probably observe is that whenever I pull up, there is a little bit more of a weight shift in my body going on than when I just say I'm gonna drop down. This weight shift to the left and to the right when I start to pull up literally has to happen, because if I close, for instance, my left side, then I have to shift my center of gravity a little bit more towards the right leg. Why is that? This is because whenever I use tension somewhere in the body to close a structure consciously, then I'm also shifting the center of organization in the body. What does this mean? If I drop, for instance, my right hip, then it's a release point here, but my body organizes itself around the structure that is solid, which is the ground. So I can just simply drop my hip, but still distribute my weight evenly between the left and the right, so it sort of has this feeling of going deep down and of really connecting, sinking into the ground, sinking into connection with the ground. Whenever you pull up, this is different. Whenever you pull up, you have two choices. Choice number one is look at my foot. You pull up in such a way that the foot leaves the ground completely, thus creating an even stronger need for the whole body to shift to the side. Or you pull up, but you leave the ball of the foot on the ground to stabilize. However, if you pull up and you leave the ball of the foot on the ground to stabilize, you are probably, and when I say probably, 99.9% of the cases, going to use your calf muscles of the left leg to actually support this pelvic tilt and push off the ground a little bit as well. Right now, my focus is on what's going on up here, not so much on the completely connected aspects of what is actually happening in the lower leg area here, which is why I don't want too much focus on this. But in terms of the organizational focus, if I create tension in a certain area of my body, then immediately all other parts of the body, they sort of start to find a solid spot. If I drop this solid area, it's the ground. If I do not drop with a specific part of my body, but I rather tense up a very specific part of my body and I pull up, I have to create part of that stability point in my own body. I have to create this stability point literally, not just in regard to the ground, but also inside of my body. A discipline where this is extreme is actually aerial acrobatics, because in aerial acrobatics you really have your own core area as the solid point around which you organize yourself, or different parts of your central area around which you organize yourself, because everything else is moving. Now on a day-to-day basis, obviously we are not hanging around somewhere in the air. Why is this important? Out here, like on a rocky, uneven surface, for instance, or anywhere in nature really, where it's not a completely flat and like paved path, when you walk around, in order to make this a smooth walking experience, in order to actually walk around and have this complete free-flowing and smoothly looking move to it, you have to have the capacity to do both. To let go and sometimes allow the foot to find the ground, and in some other areas, sometimes, for instance, if you walk somewhere where the foot has to go up, then it's not just lifting the foot, you literally have to stabilize with the opposite hip as well to actually place the foot a little higher. If you do not do this, then what happens is that your whole core section suddenly becomes quite stiff, and you solely rely on literally moving with your feet, but it stiffens up the whole gait and makes you a lot more unstable, because whenever one part of the body is stiff, all the immediate surrounding parts, they lose range of motion. Now, especially in an area like this, where it's really just, well, moving around on this rocky surface, you need full range of motion, you need mobility to actually deal with the surroundings. Now you might say, yeah, but I'm not using this, but I would encourage you to actually use this. Maybe not in an quote-unquote extreme surrounding like this, if you haven't done any natural outdoor movement for say 50 or 60 years, but I encourage you to go out in the woods and go a little bit off the beaten path. It's extremely important neurologically as well as physiologically, not even talking about the emotional and psychological aspects, to actually trigger your system with all of those different impulses that immediately come in once you use your surroundings, your natural surroundings, as a trigger for more diversity in movement. Now, coming back to the exercise, there is literally two parts to this exercise. The one part is I drop my hip by allowing the knee to drop to the front. Good. And the second part is this lifting aspect, where I pull up pelvic ring side, like the right side. I'm pulling up my left side, I'm pulling up my right side, and I compress one side. Now, another thing that is really important here is that I haven't mentioned so far. I want you to focus on what's happening in your abdominal region right now. But just for this whole video to sort of have at least part of its completeness, if that's even possible in terms of transmitting information with this medium. Another part, obviously, that's very important is the opposite hip. So when I allow my right knee to go to the front, like so, this is what I showed you before. Left knee, right knee. Alright, but now take a look at it. Right now I'm letting go of the right knee, but nothing happens. Right now I'm letting go of the left knee, but nothing happens. Now, why is that? Because there is a second component to letting go on one side, and this is the opposite side of the hip. Again, either in letting go or in tensing up. If I stand here like this and I allow my right knee to drop, I also have to give this freedom of a tilting pelvis to my left hip joint. I have to allow the muscles on the side here. I don't even want to go into anatomical details too much right now. I have to allow the pelvis to drop by releasing on the outside here as well. For most people, when they see the movement, it's not necessary to focus on the outside of the hip. Their body is sort of automatically doing this once they realize, okay, that's what you want from me. However, for some, it might be important and they say, yeah, I let go of my knee, but nothing happens. Okay, I let go of this area, but nothing happens. Okay, then focus on the outside of the hip and make sure that this part out here also allows to drop off the pelvis to actually facilitate this side movement. Same, but again, not in a freeing, but in a pressuring way, or a tensing up way, goes for lifting one side. Now, if I lift the left side like this, obviously it's not just the muscles of my core on the side, quadratus, lumborum, external, internal, obliques, all of those muscles. No, it's also in an increased tension on the outside of my hip here that actually pulls my hip up as well. And in the active part, with using tension, you can actually feel those muscles on the side here working a lot better. And that's extremely important. We want freedom on the one side, but on the other side, we also want to reconnect with our muscles in a proper way. When I say reconnect, I want you to be able to feel, to get in touch with the sensomotoric feedback of, oh, okay, something's happening. Now, for most people, when I say focus on the muscles that release, they don't even recognize that because there is so much tension level in there that the tension pulls so much of their attention and awareness that they actually can't perceive it. However, if I say tense up one area, like crunch your left side of the body. Now, if I do this without shifting my weight and without activating the outside of my opposite hip, then what I just did happens. You try to close the left side of the body and either you pull down the upper body, which is not what we want in this exercise, or you just simply drop to the side and can't do the exercise. So in order to actually facilitate this lifting of the pelvic ring actively, you have to stabilize the hip, the opposite hip, and pull down in this area. at the beginning, when I say, okay, just lift this side and focus on not falling over, your body again will most likely do this actively. But if I say, okay, and now become aware of what parts of your body are actually helping you to facilitate this movement, then you're most likely able to feel that there is tension increasing on the opposite side, helping you to actually stabilize the hip and making it possible for one side of the hip to be lifted by stabilizing the opposite hip joint. Alright, I think that's enough for today. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comment box below. Like I say, it's not possible to talk about core stability in just one video. I'm not that big of a fan of just pushing out one video and say, okay, and those are 5 exercises for core stability. I want people to understand. I want people to actually dive into the things at a much deeper level and really get in touch with their body. And that's why I explain in so much detail. In the next episodes, we'll talk more about these core functions, and as you can already see, like we started out with obliques, with quadratus, lumborum, with rectus, with all of those areas, but right now already we are also talking about hip stability, because that's the thing. Core stability is not just something that has to do with my abdominal muscles. Core stability is actually something where my hip joints, my abdominals, my diaphragm, my psoas, they are all involved in this concept of core stability, or much rather core function. Alright, thanks for watching. Stay tuned for the next update. If you have questions, please leave them in the comment box down below. If you think you need some more personalized advice, no problem, you can always just contact me and do a private one-on-one session if needed, or if you feel the need or the urge to actually train some more. Other than that, please click like, share and subscribe, and hit the notification bell if you want to stay up to date with additional videos in this series, or just any other additional videos that are on my vlog actually here on YouTube. Thanks for watching, have a wonderful time, and see you around soon.